Michael, are you listening to me?
No.
You're wrong.
I'm right.
I'm telling you, man, you're wrong.
I'd like to be right. Can I please?
You want to be right, but you can't
Can I
be right.
For one
I'm right.
time,
You're wrong.
One time. Welcome to AHA, a human among humans. We're honored to have Michael Mack back again, the God Talk guy.
I'm one of two.
We're the God Talk
God
guys.
Talk guys.
Yes. Oh.
We love each other.
We love each other. Yeah.
We're friends from way back.
Yeah. So, I have my. Yes, I have my Bible. So how shall we begin? One of the things we're trying to do is to be with the presence. Yes, we'll just call it the presence while we're talking about religious things, or spiritual things.
So are we going to invite the presence in?
Let's invite the presence in. Yes. May God be with us in all we do and say and think and feel night and day. May we be blessed, feel like we're blessed, co-create blessings.
Michael, I was just sacrilegious. I have to tell you.
Yes.
My
eyes are open now.
I know. I did a devil sign.
Oh! That's good, though. This is a modern era. We want an integrated.
God has a sense of humor.
God has a sense of humor, and some have said, and I believe that the devil is just the dark side of God. And so, to be an integrated personality being, we, in the image of God, need to integrate our dark side and our light side. Which side are you on at this moment?
I don't have an answer. So I'm practicing humility. So I guess that means I'm on the good side. I'm being a good boy. I'm the good angel.
Okay. So did you had something you want to?
Yes, but it's out of reach.
Now
you have a quote.
Yes. Okay.
So we said to each other we're going to bring a quote that we would like to share as a way to spark conversation or keep conversation going, or if we reach a point where we've simply run out of things to say, somebody else can say something in our stead.
So I'm really interested in your response to this and interrupt it at any time.
Okay.
So Yahweh, which is often translated as Lord.
Are you going to give me some kind of backstory or introduction to this, or?
Okay. So
Yahweh, I know who you're talking about.
You do?
Yes. Old Testament God, or that's what our people call that book.
So, but if he's the Old Testament God, is he the same God that you pray to and who guides you and who loves you and who you love?
I wrestle with that.
Yes?
I wrestle with that. Because the Old Testament God is a fierce God. And sometimes loving, sometimes not.
Yep.
Sometimes, if we take a look at Job, sometimes I would even say malicious, seemingly malicious to me.
Yep.
And so I wrestle with that God. And that was the God who gave us, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. I think.
Yes.
I think.
Yep. I think so too. Which is in some ways nice, meaning that you can't strangle me even if you feel like it. You have to.
Well, that's one.
While strangling me, if I would say, "Vengeance is mine," says the Lord, you'd relax, because you'd realize that you have to let God strangle me.
Yes. That you die on God's timetable,
not your own,
not mine.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Praise the Lord.
So you have a quote for us?
Oh, I was.
Or was that the quote? Did I already say it?
No. So if you wanted the context of this,
you're reading from the Hebrew Bible, so there's lots of Hebrew there. I can see.
Yes.
You want to show the people?
It was.
Check out this book.
Yeah. You can't. They really can't see.
We'll turn the book around so they can see the other side of the book. I want them to see the binding of this book.
I read this.
That is, in fact, duct tape, just like it looks.
Some of it is duct tape removed. Once removed. So, this is. I mean, in the beginning of the Bible, you've got you remember like what's the first big event in the Bible?
There's the void. There's God is in the universe is without form.
And void, yes. And then what happens?
And then God creates the heavens and the earth. Did I miss something?
Yes. Actually, it's very yes. In the beginning, well, it begins in the beginning. God created the heavens and earth.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And the earth was without form and void.
Yes.
In Hebrew, it's a great word in Hebrew, tohu vavohu.
Mm-hmm. And what does it suggest beyond?
Tohu vavohu could be confusion.
Oh, chaos.
Yes.
Yeah.
Chaos versus cosmos. Cosmos means order in Greek. So there were other events, and then there was, and then Adam and Eve and Cain and Abel, and then the flood, and then the Tower of Babel.
We're getting the Bible,
chronology.
The 5-minute version.
Yes, the chronology.
Okay.
And after the Tower of Babel, the next event is Abraham.
And Abraham is very important.
10 generations without any communication between God and humanity.
10 generations. So God did not come back to humanity until Abraham? Is that what you're telling me?
Right. God talked to Noah, and then 10 generations later, when there was the Tower of Babel, God just talked to himself, but didn't talk to any human beings. So
and all the human beings were talking to each other in different languages.
Eventually, yes.
Yeah.
Which is somewhat sad. In some ways, God created all of this misunderstanding that's going on.
Well, that's one way to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be at least one simple way of reading that. I don't like what humanity is doing. They're getting so powerful, it says, so let's have them not understand each other.
And so God created the internet.
Internet is with more understanding. He created the nation state, if you want. So that
an early form of the internet.
It was the nation state?
Well, nation state and the Babel.
The Babel. Oh, you thinking? Are you playing on the word Babel and internet?
Yes.
Some things are okay. We're gonna.
I'm trying
to be humorous. Yes.
Trying to be humorous.
Yes. Okay. So
wanting to be entertaining.
So
okay.
Abraham. This is we have certain segments. This is our meaningful trivia segment. Where was Abraham born?
Where was Abraham born? Israel? No! Abraham? No, wait a second. Was Abraham born in a basket on the Nile?
That was Moses.
Moses.
Right. I can see. Did you go to Sunday school as a child?
Yes, that was a long time ago.
Yes.
As a revert, a reconvert to Catholicism, I'm reacquainting myself with much of the Scripture, much more familiar with the New Testament than the Old Testament.
Well, you can ask me also meaningful trivia.
Okay.
Test it.
Okay.
But I'll answer this. So Abraham came from Iraq.
Iraq?
Yes. Cradle of civilization, which was the first civilization too.
And was that the rock that Moses struck in order to bring out the water?
No, but that's an interesting pun that James Joyce would love.
I'm batting 1,000.
Yes. So he was born in Iraq, and he was eventually called to go to what we now call Israel. And this was the call. This is the call, the first communication between God and humanity in 10 generations.
Okay.
So it kind of mirrors your life. Like there's been a lot of time between your being a Catholic and then coming back to God.
Mhm.
And with
As a Catholic, because I've been with
you've been with God
all
in
along.
other ways.
Yes.
You have.
Yeah. Other paths.
And what moved you to begin worshiping as a Catholic? Because you go to church at least once a week, yes?
Yes, at least once a week.
And what moved you to become a Catholic?
That's a long story. The short version is that I was... That's a long story.
Oh.
That's a very long story.
I became a Catholic too in my 20s.
Start your story. You tell your story, and it might inspire me.
You're helping me come back to Catholicism in a certain way, or
Uh-huh.
at least appreciate it more.
Mhm.
So my short version, I don't know how true it is, but this is what I have said, and I can comment on the truth, is that I was I used to have conversations with myself when I was lonely,
Mm-hmm.
not knowing what to do.
Prayers.
I wasn't religious or spiritual then. So I would go out with somebody and not know what to do, and I would hear a voice saying, "Hold her hand, punk." And so I
Punk?
Yeah.
Was that the loving way that God spoke?
Well, I didn't think it was God then. I just thought it was my. And then I told a friend of mine who was.
Are you feeling lucky, punk?
Yes, a friend of mine who was studying who would eventually become a priest, and he tried to convince me that instead of being a lonely boy talking to himself, which was a little pathetic and scary, I could have had a direct line to God. That this could be God telling me to hold her hand.
Punk.
Punk, yes. And so I had to choose.
I have to stop for a
Yes,
second.
you can, please. This is what we're this.
Because this is the kind of God
Yes.
who would say, "Vengeance is mine."
Oh, my.
This is the kind of God who would look on you as a Job and say, "I'm going to make a bet
Oh, my.
on this guy.
Well, I needed this.
I'm going to make a bet on Punk over here."
I needed this so badly. So, and as soon as this man who's going to be a priest, his name is Owen Carroll,
Mhm.
suggested that it could be God speaking to me.
Mhm.
And then I read Kierkegaard, "Fear and Trembling, Sickness unto Death." And I thought, that's the kind of book for me. It was on my roommate's shelf. And so that began my experience. Instead of being a lonely boy talking to himself, I had a direct line to God.
And then that's when they became prayers. That the conversations you would have with yourself became prayers.
I
then.
don't think I thought of them as prayers, and still don't. I mean, they could have. I was in such need of direction, and going through the University of Chicago, leaving home, that it was just my way of getting guidance.
Mhm.
Even calling it guidance is too kind. Help! What should I do?
Yeah.
And then I would hear. And so that was that. Eventually, since my Owen Carroll was a Catholic and invited me to come to services, and I eventually got the sense that this Jewish boy who was on the cross, everybody was admiring him.
Mm-hmm.
The girls also. And I could be...
You could get the girls if you got crucified too.
Something close to that. I, who was in such pain daily, and here was a situation where I could be in pain, and it was something that was celebrated. Pain was good. Pain meant that I was on the way to God, whatever God meant to even me then. So, and the girls were almost afraid of sex because they were Catholic girls at this time and were told you have to, sex is only for certain, and it wasn't celebrated.
Right.
So they were almost, but they were Catholic, so
It was celibated until you got married,
Yes, but-
and then it was
yes,
celebrated.
but they were very healthy women too, Catholic
Yeah.
women, and they had this thought on them, but they were very earthy and
Yeah.
and so they were almost as scared as I, and it was very wonderful for me to be in this community. And I
And you converted.
eventually decided I didn't even think it was conversion because I wasn't Jewish at all. I was born Jewish.
Okay. But it was more like culturally Jewish than
Not even culturally.
religiously.
Nothing. We didn't
The name.
have,
Name alone.
not
Is that
the
what you're
name.
saying?
Koran was not even a Jewish name.
Yeah.
So I remember when I went away to the university, I didn't even want to say I was Jewish because I thought it would be a liability.
Mm-hmm.
So I became Catholic at 25. I remember the baptism. He put oil on my forehead, and then I didn't stay for the party and went walking on the midway. I could feel the sun shining on my forehead where the cross was made.
Hmm.
And eventually that helped me when I went to train for the Peace Corps and was feeling even lonelier. I could feel in that emptiness, oh my, there's a cross inside that will help me stand, be.
Well, one of the things it seems to me that I'll say Christianity, or maybe I'll just say the image of Jesus on the cross, which is one of the central images of Christianity, it offers a relationship to suffering, suffering being one of the facts of life. And the Buddha on the other side of the world, also, first thing in his teaching was the recognition of suffering as being one of the facts of life, but then offering a solution to the suffering, at least a way through the suffering. And it seems to me that what Christianity does, what Jesus does through his example, is to offer a way through.
Yes, it was wonderful.
Yeah. And is this the dead point in the show? This could be one of the features of our show, too.
Yeah.
The dead point, where nothing happens. We just look at each other.
Silence is very, yes,
Silence is,
yes.
there's not enough of it. There's not enough of it out there.
Especially on TV, yes.
Why don't we have a silent moment? That could be another one of our features of the God Talk guys.
The Quakers do that. I have joined the Quakers, too.
Uh-huh.
And Quakers, like what just happened now, when silence comes, they just stay with it.
Mm-hmm.
Just stay with it.
It can be brave.
Yeah, in some ways,
to
it's
stay with
an opportunity to be with the Spirit. Silence, if not the Spirit itself being present.
I wonder sometimes if the truest things that we can receive from the great presence, from God, from life, is in that silence, in that listening. I mean, my spiritual practice involves a lot of prayer, often, vocal prayer. It feels natural to me. But increasingly and lately, it seems like a much more authentic communication for me to shut up for a little while and just listen. Just listen. Just notice. And the listening might be literally listening to the things that are happening outside, traffic, birds, or it might be listening to the sensations of my body, or listening to feelings or thoughts or images that pass through me. But it's really about listening and noticing what's there.
Sounds good.
Yes, thank you. It is good. I've been waiting to tell you that so you could give it the stamp of approval.
Praise the Lord, as they say in the Pentecostal church.
Yes. And you've been how many times to this service?
I think
twice?
4 times.
4 times?
Yes.
Because you and I went together the first time.
Yes, they still ask for you.
I will return. I will return. It may be the end of days, but I will return.
Yes, wow.
Yeah. I'm going to my first... So one of the other things, and you had talked about that this Pentecostal group does, is scripture readings.
Yes.
And have you been to one of those yet?
They read it during these...
Yes.
During these prayer meetings, but not. I haven't gone to the one on Friday night. This is at 44 William Street, for people who are interested, where it's just Bible reading.
Mm-hmm. And so where they take a scriptural passage and they parse it and
tell what it really means for us.
Yes. I'm going to go do that tomorrow. There's a, it's not at that church.
I might come.
Okay.
Although I'm teaching, unfortunately. What time does it start?
It will be, well, it's right after the noon mass. The noon mass is, let's see, when is the noon mass? It's at noon. I think it's 12:05, but it's at the St. Paul Catholic Church in Harvard Square. And it's right after that, and I think that the mass runs maybe 40 minutes. But they take either the scriptural readings for the day, or they'll take another passage and just talk about it. And and
it's the whole community that's doing that. Yes, not someone.
Oh no, it's open to anybody.
Yeah, no, I mean, is it a joint discussion, or is there a priest telling us?
Oh no, it's joint.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you go to something else, I think, later in the day on Monday. There's a community.
On the second Monday of the month, there is a group called Caring for the Soul, and it's run by, or facilitated by, Sister Nancy Kehoe, who is a nun, and I forget which order she's in, but she facilitates this group, and the topic or the idea for the formation of the group was is spirituality and mental health and mental illness. And a lot of the people that come, well, they either have mental illness themselves, or they have a family member with it, or they're simply very interested in the topic. And it's hard not to be interested in it, actually, since so many of, I think that many who have been touched by God I'm going to backtrack and say many saints in the Catholic tradition, if they were alive today, might be diagnosed with some kind of mental illness. Hearing voices, seeing visions.
Isn't that the name of your first show?
Hearing Voices, Speaking in Tongues is the name of my first show. But that's certainly an idea in the show. St. Francis, one of the most beautiful saints in the tradition, I think suggested the phrase, the fools of God. And fool is another term for someone who is mad, someone who is mentally ill. It's an earlier, much earlier term. But he equated the idea of the rapture of God as being closely related to losing one's mind, losing one's senses. And I think it was in a delirium that St. Francis first had the experience of God, of being touched more fully and deeply by Him than. Well, that was his turning point. Was in an illness, during an illness, and it was after that illness that he had his conversion, and he did some things that these days you would end up in a psych ward for. He ended up, at one point, removing his clothes in church, I think it was, and walking out into the world naked.
Oh my.
So, but it's a wonderful group, and
it's at 5:00.
It's at 5:30 on the second Sunday of the month.
The second Sunday?
Sorry.
Second Monday.
Thank you. Second Monday of the month. Caring for the Soul.
Can people come at 6:15 if they have a class that goes till 6?
As long as there's somebody downstairs
To let you in?
To let you in. There is a front desk, and what I don't know is how long somebody is there at the front desk.
And this is at St. Paul's in Harvard Square.
St. Paul Catholic Church, St. Paul Parish in Harvard Square,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, I might try after teaching
Okay.
business writing from 4
That'd be
to
great.
6.
Great to have you.
Great. So it's different from a 12-step program in some ways, or not?
Oh yeah, very. It's a discussion group, a
So it's
discussion and support group.
Oh,
I'd
because
say.
the 12-step programs that my mother loved going to Al-Anon
Mm-hmm.
is not discussion. It's people having a certain amount of time to present where they are and then
Yes.
moving on.
Yeah.
Very explicitly.
Yeah.
Don't want
It has a 12-step has a very defined form,
Yes.
and so there's a protocol that you have to follow for each meeting.
And this
As
is
I understand
and this
it.
is more open. Like you will say something, people will respond to it.
Typically, what happens, the group begins with a prayer, just a way for all of us to center ourselves and become present to the room, present to the other folks in the room. There might be, somebody might present a piece of a work of art, might present a passage from a book of poems, perhaps, as a way just to get the conversation going. And then it just takes off.
Oh
And
my.
it's a remarkably, the depth of sharing and intimacy in the group is really remarkable, is stunning at times. And we've gone places that I don't think that we could have gone had
Wow.
we not been in that group.
And it goes until when?
From 5:30 till 7 on the second Monday
Yes.
of the month.
And do people stay after and talk, or is that?
Yes.
Oh my.
Yeah.
So
And there's
it would-
usually some food, some snacks.
Yeah, it
and
would be
so-
hard to come at 6:15, but I might try it. Just 'cause it sounds so wonderful. It's called Caring.
Caring for the soul.
Hmm.
Caring for the soul.
And you've been going for a while.
I've been going since the inception, which was maybe 2.5 years ago.
Wow. So what moved you, unless it's too long a story, of what moved you to become Catholic again?
Okay. Well, I'd have to tell the whole story, but I think I can do it relatively quickly.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a child, I was baptized Catholic and raised in the Catholic Church. I wanted to be a priest. It was my dream. And it was a dream that ended.
Do you remember why you wanted to be a priest?
I wanted to be a priest for a lot of different reasons, I think. But a priest was the nearest I could get to God.
Oh, as a child you feel this.
Yeah,
My.
yeah. I felt a very strong connection with God, and the rites and rituals of the church
Yes.
had a powerful, and still have, a powerful hold, and they really point to, suggest, embody, I would say capture, except they can't really capture, the mystery of divinity. They suggest the mystery of divinity in powerful and profound ways, these rites and rituals.
Now, what's the difference between a rite and a ritual?
I'm sure there's a difference.
No.
I don't know what the difference
so
is.
they're really rituals.
Yes. Yeah.
Right rituals, not the wrong rituals.
That's correct.
Thank you.
That's right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so you wanted to, I understand now, you wanted to be connected to God and be a priest.
Yes. And I was, of course, an altar boy and served at the altar. So that as a child, the closest I could get to the action, because the
Yeah.
action was all happening on the altar.
Yes. And this
Was
is
the-
before Vatican II? Yes.
This was after
Oh, this is after
Vatican II, just barely
65 or something, yes.
after. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
So it was after Vatican II. So,
Those were very rich times for Catholicism.
oh yes. Well, it was going through a renewal.
Yeah.
In the church was going through a renewal, and I would say something of a liberal or progressive renewal.
Yes.
And so it was a very exciting time. And when I was in 6th grade, when I was 11 years old, we were living down in North Carolina for a year. because my mom was very ill at the time. She had schizophrenia, and my dad was at his wit's end, trying to keep the family together. And so he sent us down to North Carolina to live with his sister, our Aunt May. And so the four of us kids lived in Brevard, North Carolina for that year. And so I continued to serve at the altar and to be regular in attendance at church. And
you felt God was with you at other times, like you were...
Being with God was just like the most natural thing in the world.
And you would feel this during the week, even not just, my goodness.
Yeah. It was just, to be myself was just to be with God. At least that's the way that I remember.
And do you remember like feeling like very peaceful and guided or loved or...
Peaceful?
I'm just guessing what it was
connected.
like.
Connected.
Could you think of an example of when you felt you were with God as a child? Do any memories come back?
Well, the one that's most prominent in my mind is a memory that I've had ever since then of walking down the side of the road, gravel road, traffic going by both directions, and I was just talking to God. I was just talking to him. It's just the most natural thing in the world. It's the easiest thing in the world. And a little bit earlier, when you were talking about having a conversation with yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, one could easily look at the experience that I was having myself as a child and say, well, you were just talking to yourself.
Or you feel it was, as I did, you feel it was...
Connected.
Talking to
I was
God.
connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the religious tradition, the Hebrew scholars of the Hebrew Bible, they make distinctions between a very personal God, that's just your God, and something that's larger for the family, for this community, and so on. So we might have been, one way of understanding it is we had a personal God.
And still do.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, this is something, this sort of like veers away from the story a little bit, but trust that we'll come back to the story. But it seems to me that an essential part of connection with God, or understanding of God, or seeking understanding of God, is how to put together, on one hand, the personal God, and on the other hand, the universal God.
Yes, or the God of community, or the God of family.
Yes.
It's and people used to have what we call idols, but beautiful statues, or stones, and it could be their father coming, the ancestor, or maybe the spirit of the family that's with them when they travel and so on.
Well, in Roman times, or for the Romans, it was the Lares and Penates.
Oh,
right?
It's for the household, yes.
Household, yeah.
Yes. Those are two separate gods, Lares and...
yes, but I couldn't tell you what the distinction is.
Oh, yes, and something maybe they could hold, or probably something they could hold. And
we should have a dictionary here.
No, but our audience has them. They can Google this. We do have a dictionary here.
Oh, we do have a dictionary. We have something.
Yes,
we have a screen.
We have the internet. Yeah.
We have the internet.
Yes.
The font of all wisdom, earthly and divine.
Yes. But we could, but we keep going. So this was just an aside to say that what you're experiencing as a child, and maybe me as an older child, but as a student at the University of Chicago, is some kind of personal spirit. One possible, I'm not suggesting that's the only, and that we would think we're taught, which is, and who knows what the relationship between this personal spirit and something larger than that. But for us at the time, we really feel it's God that's speaking to us, which is very comforting. And wouldn't feel nearly as comforted if I thought it was just my own conversation with myself or my own personal spirit. But when I feel it's, that's somehow the universe, which I think is true too. The universe is in a grain of sand and heaven's in a wildflower. So
Blake?
yes. So it could be that we're in some ways, in ways that are mysterious but also true for anything from a pebble to a tree, that we're in some ways connected to the universe. And we're experiencing it you're experiencing it as a conversation. I'm just offering this as one way of understanding it.
Well, I think that requires a moment of silence.